for taking your time to stop, look, and listen in our divine appointment here tonight. I'm Sandra, and I am so excited, sitting here with my mouth closed, waiting for this opening, because we are going to have a very fun, exciting show here tonight from the #1 access station in the nation. That's right. Angels at God Central Station and Access TV tonight brings you Calling All Angels Hotline. And you get a chance to participate. Right?
Right.
See, I'm so excited. I just had to stop myself and say, right, right. Here with me tonight at the right place at the right time, I have the one, the only one. He's famous. His name begins with an M. Monte Patterson. Monte! This is all about you tonight, Monte. Give yourself permission to be who you really are.
All right. I am Monte Patterson.
I know that. I know that. I had it in my heart to open the show like that.
Absolutely.
I did.
Definitely. It's Montel with 2 L's, except the L is silent.
Yes, I know. And I'm so glad that you're receptive of that. Truly, I am. I'm honored and excited to be here because I know everything is on the table here tonight with your projects and all of your art and your creativity.
Sandra,
and I want to share it.
I am honored to be on your show.
Yeah?
Definitely. I mean, I've heard so much about it, and you're such a nice,
Aww.
warm person. And I mean, when you came to me about sitting with you tonight, I thought about it and just realized, wow, that's perfect. I mean, you just make me feel so calm and so comfortable.
Well, thank you, Monte. But I have to say, I have to give all credit to our Creator because I truly believe that it was a divine appointment that we're here tonight, and I'm going to help you to share so much information about something that came from your soul. And I just see the big picture in it all as one world, one dream, and a spirit of unity, as I'm going to soon share with our audience. But first, I have to share something. There's a number. It's a hotline number. And it's 260-422-3902. Did you know that you were live here tonight on Prime Time?
I was told.
You were told.
Yeah.
When?
Well, yeah, when I knew it was a live show, but I've never been on live TV before, so.
You haven't?
Nope.
Well, share a little bit about yourself with everyone. You are affiliated with television. Go ahead. I'm going to let you do it. You do it best.
Well, I live here in Fort Wayne. I work in television behind the scenes here at Access Fort Wayne, helping produce great shows like this one. I also work part-time at Indiana's News Center, where I do graphics and control the camera there. So between balancing those two.
Can I say what news center that is too? I mean, I give all credits to everybody. It takes all of us.
Okay.
Is that A, B, C, simple as do, re, mi, right?
That is correct.
Right?
And you can sing too.
Oh yeah.
That's really awesome. Yeah, and it's also NBC as well.
Oh,
Because,
really?
the two merged and now they're just kind of one conglomerate station.
One.
Which is probably confusing most of Fort Wayne right now because they'll flip between channels and see different anchors in the same studio.
Oh.
So.
Well, I didn't know that. So you brought a little bit of information from all of the studios
Which is
here
probably
tonight.
why you don't watch.
It is.
Yeah.
And the real reason why I'm here tonight with you is to share a little bit about another city, a ghost town city, Gary, Indiana. And if you don't mind sharing, helping me inform our audience tonight, what happened there? You lived there, right? You lived in Gary, Indiana
Well,
at one time.
Yes, I was born in Gary, Indiana.
Okay.
And growing up, it was home for me, and it was just a very loving place. My entire family was there, and it was just a great place to grow up in my eyes. But when I reached 14, my parents sent me to boarding school because they wanted me to, experience a better educational environment. And so from there, it was kind of like a whirlwind where I just, started traveling all over the world and meeting different people and seeing lots of different places. And, it was like as I got older, I started becoming more worldly, and then when I came back to Gary, that's when I started realizing just how decayed or dilapidated it had become. So I started questioning why it was like that and how it got that way, and started doing my research and learned a lot of things that were pretty saddening, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, in a nutshell, you just introduced the very first clip that we're going to show our audience tonight, and then we're going to take a few moments after that clip to allow our audience to connect with us. That clip I'm going to share, it has information about the families and the dreams and the life and the influence of Gary, Indiana, ghost town. And hopefully we can help our audience through a transformation here tonight along with you. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Well, we have an outstanding team here tonight, inside and outside of the studio, and the number again is 260-422-3902. We invite you to call us here tonight on the hotline. But first, stop, look, and listen, and watch the video clip.
Gary, Indiana, let me say it once again. Gary, Indiana, Gary, Indiana, that's the town that knew me when. Now if you'd like to have a logical explanation how I happened on this elegant syncopation, I will say without a moment of hesitation, there is just one place that can light my face. Gary, Indiana, not Louisiana, Paris, France.
Gary was founded in 1906 as an industrial city for the U.S. Steel Corporation. The city gets its name from Albert H. Gary, a rich businessman and founder of U.S. Steel. The Steel Age forged a city out of sandhills and swampland, which formerly drew Chicago's elite for hunting. The land was on the edge of a lake and was mostly sand, but Gary and his associates thought this place to be the perfect spot for the proposed steel mill. The city rapidly grew in its first 3 years. Word spread around the world about a new place for jobs. People from countries like Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Hungary all immigrated to the new land for the promise of work. When many landed on U.S. soil, the only 2 words of English they knew were Indiana and Gary. That's all they needed to know to get there. The new steel workers of Gary brought their families and their dreams, and in no time the city began to grow out of necessity. The entire community lived for the thriving steel mills that employed it. The population skyrocketed from 2,000 in 1907 to 16,800 in 1910. The city's 1920 census showed that the population tripled to more than 55,000. By possessing an industry which was a lucrative money-making venture, Gary drew large numbers of different social and economic classes. The city's downtown was the home of some of the most beautiful architecture in the Midwest for its time. There was the City Hall and the City Court Building, the Memorial Auditorium, and other buildings along Broadway like the Gary Bank Building and the Hotel Gary. One of the city's most marvelous structures was the City Methodist Church. Amid a greedy, grasping throng of the steel industry, the workers needed a proper place to worship. Gary's City Methodist Church, the heart of the rushing, bustling city, was built in 1925, radiating from the heart of the city, its life and influence. Its purpose was to hold out its quiet arms to the weary and oppressed. The steel corporations kept other industries out. It didn't want other companies stealing its workers or influencing the wage rate in the city. Because of this, Gary remained a one-industry town. Just as planned, Gary became the steel capital of America. The advent of World War I slowed down the number of foreign immigrants coming into America. The great flood of immigrants coming into Gary was over. But in 1920, Gary was still very much a city of foreigners. Over 60% of residents were either foreign-born or children of immigrants. Gary was home to over 15 different nationalities. In spite of, or perhaps because of this diversity, the school system tried to mold these children of immigrants into Americans to teach them the American way. The blacks had been in Gary from its beginnings. Those who helped build the mill, and a small few who stayed to work in the mill. In the early years of Gary, the black population was just 400, compared to more than 12,000 from Europe.
I love it. All of the different nations with the children in there. How did you know you were going to come into this oneness with Gary, Indiana? The American way. How did you know that when you were creating this?
I didn't know. I just wanted to learn about the city for myself. And so by doing so, I went and researched at the Indiana University archives, and I started just discovering so many different things, and the film includes a lot of things that I'm drawn to. Like I love representing the world through the eyes of children, and I love using children as a way to express myself, because it's a very pure form, and it says so much about the greater whole. And so I thought using children to show the ethnic makeup of the city was a way to really represent just what was there. So
and we're all children of the Creator,
mm-hmm.
and that's so cool. And you know what? That silhouette that was on there, mm-hmm. was that the angel?
Yes, that was the angel.
Oh, good. I won't give any more away, because I understand that after this one full hour of Calling All Angels Hotline, this show of yours is going to re-air on the public access station. Do you know that?
Yeah. Actually, they just told me, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're wondering about the entirety of tonight's Ghost Town with the one and only, made by the one and only Patterson. Monte. I love it. I think you should have your own show, Monte. I think you should have your own show.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, where was I? I got off track. Get back on Central Station here. If you're wondering about, where was I going with that, Monte?
You mentioned the silhouette and the angel.
Yeah.
And
did you put that? You didn't. Did you put that there?
Yes, I put that there.
Did you think of Michael Jackson as being the angel when you put that there?
I was mostly thinking of him as being the ghost.
Ghost.
But a lot of people believe that ghosts have angelic connotations. So.
Guess what?
It's all the same.
We've got a phone call.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Say hello, caller. It's for you.
Hello, caller.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Right, this is Dr. J.D. Pressey, and I'm one of the former hosts of Public Access for over 10 years here in the city of Fort Wayne. And I just had an opportunity to view your presentation about Gary being a ghost town. And I think one of the things that I did not see in your presentation that led to Gary being the city that it is today is that we have to take a look at the leadership of the Gary city. As you know, Mayor Hatcher became the first black mayor in the city of Gary back in the 60s. And if you run the leadership of the city once he got into office, that city began to move into a decline. So I think we need to take a look at whether we should say Gary is a ghost town, or whether or not Gary has just been a city that has been neglected over the years because many of the resources, as you know, moved outside of Gary into the Maryville area. Maryville now has the largest amount of resources, and it has put downtown Gary looking like it is just an abandoned city because of years of neglect. And I think that those years of neglect came as a result, as you indicated in your presentation. Gary was a multicultural community, primarily a Jewish population. You had many from the Polish community, and probably when Mayor Hatcher moved into office, there came into the city a political shifting.
You're right.
Shifting,
like
we saw that Gary began to move into a decline, and I just want to know whether or not your presentation is including the political landscape and the changes that came as a result of the first black mayor moving into political power back in the 60s.
Yes, sir, it does. And the clip that you just saw was only a 5-minute clip of a 26-minute long film. And if you stay tuned after this show today, you'll see the whole movie in its entirety. And yes, it does get very heavily into the whole political movement in the late 60s.
But Monte, Doctor, I have something for you too. If you stay tuned in this one full hour, there's another clip coming up. If you don't mind, I'm going to include where you talk about Richard Hatcher and the liberations and the sense of rights and how after the war it basically was in its own self-discovery. So you do get heavily in that, and I'm going to show that.
Great.
Yeah.
I should also add
Go ahead.
I should also add that the title of the film is Ghost Town. I'm not saying that the city of Gary is currently a ghost town. This is just an experimental documentary as biographical performance. Basically, it's part fiction, mostly fact, and the whole ghost town part is fiction. Gary has 97,000 people today, so it's not the ghost town that I make it seem in the film. So.
Well, if you include Gary, then we have to also take a look at Calumet, along with the other city, East Chicago, because the steel mill did impact those three cities within that geographical area. And so when you talk about Gary, you have to also talk about the impact that it had on Calumet City and also the East Chicago area as well.
I think that there are so many different things that can be included in this. I think that if I made it all-inclusive, that it would be a 16-hour-long film on PBS. I think that this particular film that I made is just strictly about Gary, and also I'm trying to compare and contrast the city itself, its sort of racial transformation, comparing that to the racial transformation that of Michael Jackson. And so that was where I'm focused on for this particular piece.
Well, I commend you for a job well done, because I think what you're doing is also setting a precedent for the current leadership at the state and the national level to take a look at what can we do to bring back the type of vitalization that is impacting the lives of third and fourth generations to come.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your input tonight. We appreciate your caller. You're an angel. Can you believe that? That's awesome.
It was a great call.
That's awesome. And it actually sets us up for the next snippet that we have already back there with our directors for more of this documentary to be shown tonight. Is that okay with you?
That's fine. Let's do it.
Okay. Angels, take it away.
The power elite in Gary felt the best way to handle the problem was zoning. Gary's south side was for people who were poor, different, people who were foreigners, or black. These poor people made up the majority, but the city was controlled by the native white-born Americans living on the north side. In those times, segregated zoning was a fact of life. This type of racial separation was in education, housing, employment, public services, and recreation. And it was established and carried out by the city's white elite. Businessmen, bankers, realtors, educators, steel company officials, and local government leaders. These leaders felt that it was in the blacks' best interest to keep the blacks separated from whites. That way they would receive the best treatment and education from their own kind, rather than mixing and confusing a thriving community. School Superintendent William Wirt: "We believe that it is only injustice to the Negro children that they be segregated. There is naturally a feeling between the Negroes and the whites in the lower grades, and we are sure the colored children will be better cared for in schools of their own, and they will take pride in their work and will consequently get better grades." Backing up, the strike of 1919 is what actually started the barrage of the blacks on Gary. Because of unfair labor laws, the majority of the steelworkers went on strike. The battle over union recognition was really what the strike was about, but when the whites went on strike, the blacks went to work in the mills by the truckloads. This ultimately ruined the race relations in the city. Gary's black population increased even more due to the strike and the recruiting practices of the mills. But eventually the strike ended and the country went to war. This brought a heavy increase in steel production and continued the prosperity of the one industry town.
That's at the one industry town on the documentary here tonight of Ghost Town. And I'm here tonight with Dante Patterson. What do you have to say about the one industry town? I said, oh, that's right. From Dante to Monte. We're going to give you a new star name tonight.
Okay. Your question was?
Oh, you know, I really appreciate your lightheartedness through all of this. The one industry town in this documentary.
Yeah, okay. Well, what I feel about it?
What do you think about it? Could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Well, Gary was a one industry town, and that's pretty much how the town grew so rapidly, because it was a town that had one industry during the turn of the century, during the whole Industrial Revolution, and this was during a time when immigration was very high in our country and people were needing a place to work, and so the steel mill itself kind of put the city on lock. The city was born out of the steel mill, and so basically the mill itself was in control of things like the school, the local government, and just the whole city was fostered in by the steel mill, and so that made it a one industry town. And so basically a large percentage of the people in the city were affiliated with the mill. So when you have a one industry town, you have a town that is economically dependent on that one industry. And so when something happens to that industry one way or another, the whole town is affected by it. And so that's sort of that is the story of Gary, Indiana.
Wow. Wow. And then I know after that came strikes and the battles of unions, I'm sure. And I think, wasn't that about the time of a war, too?
Yeah, this was World War I and World War II experienced a large number of people moving into the city to work in the mills, because number one, during World War I, the initial steel mill workers went on strike because of their debate over union laws, and so because of that, black people from the South moved to Gary to take the place of the white workers who were on strike. And so the mill wasn't honoring the initial workers' requests. They were just happy to have people coming in to work. So they were like,
sure.
So eventually when the war came about, they needed more workers, so they brought back all the white workers working alongside the black workers. Well, not alongside, but they were all working at the mill together.
They brought more, they clearly created that diversity. I mean, that clearly was shown there, where they were coming together more in unity, and they didn't even know it. right?
That's true, although they were segregated within the mill itself.
Hey, guess what? We're going to take a break because we have a phone call,
Okay.
okay? Let's say, hello, caller.
Hello, caller.
Yeah, hello. I got a quick question for you. My name is T-Bone. How are you?
Hi.
Hi.
Just wanted to think, what can you tell me about the baseball team that's up at Gary right now and how that's benefited this the local economy?
I can tell you that the Gary Railcats is having an exceptional season. I went to see a game this year, and they won, and they actually went on to the playoffs. I haven't followed them since to know how far they've made it, but I do know that the ball field there has hired a lot of people who live in Gary, and the team itself has brought a lot of money. Like a lot of the people who live in the surrounding cities, like Calumet City and Maryville, come to Gary to watch the games, and I think it just unifies everything. It was really a beautiful moment there that night when I went to see a game.
Well, I've been by there, on the way to Chicago several times, and I like to take a couple of friends, Kim and Jenny, and on the way up there sometime. But I just didn't know if you recommended it and what you thought.
Yeah, dude, it's cool. It's a ball game. It's a local farm team. It's a good time. It's clean. It's just what you would expect. In fact, it's better than what I expected. It's just a really good time. They sell hot dogs and they have they have fireworks after every game.
Well, I know that
I'm not
Kim
sure.
and Jenny love hot dogs, so I'll probably try to take them out sometime. But I want to thank you for your time and thank you for your show, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you,
calling.
and yeah, go check out a game.
All right, appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you too.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That was a nice question. Thank you, caller. And we encourage others out there at 422-3902. Call us. We want to hear from you. We were talking a little bit about after the war, right before that caller. And I know the next segment that you have coming up, it talks about the population and the increase. And you had some very thorough statistics. And this was when Richard Hatcher was in office. I'm going to go ahead and move us on to just show that short little clip. It's like 3 minutes or so, because there's so much beautiful information in there. If you don't mind, do you mind?
Go right ahead.
Angels, as soon as you're ready, go ahead. Take it away.
However, the city's black population doubled in the 1940s due to increased demand for labor during World War II. It was becoming the blackest city in America. After the war and the demise in Gary's neighborhoods, many of Gary's whites began to move to the suburbs, while blacks continued to move to Gary. The result was a sharp increase in the black percentage of Gary's population: 29% in 1950, 39% in 1960, 53% in 1970, and 71% in 1980. Despite some efforts to improve race relations in the 1950s and early 60s, Gary's blacks remained second-class citizens. Housing patterns and white flight sustained de facto school segregation, and systematic racial discrimination in the steel industry kept black workers in the lower-paying segments of the labor force. Such conditions contributed to the rise of the civil rights movement, a national force which in Gary resulted in the rapid rise to power of Richard Hatcher. Hatcher was a political activist from Michigan City, 25 miles east of Gary. He came to town with the endorsement of white liberals with intentions of desegregating Gary. By this time, there was bitterness in the city with the segregation protests and the dawning civil rights movement. During this period in the 50s and the early 60s, George Chakiris was mayor. He was a people person and strived to be liked by all. His political organization included blacks in a power base that controlled the mayor's office until late 1962, when Chakiris was convicted of income tax evasion. Aided by the political demise of George Chakiris, the recent black migration into Gary, and the support of a small but significant number of white liberals, Hatcher became, within 8 years of his arrival, Gary's first black mayor, with the aid of 96% of the black vote. There were failed efforts to prevent this. It was discovered that a white vote counter had been rigging the results, and the morning that Hatcher was to take office, the building was locked and there were no keys to be found. Despite these attempts, blacks felt liberated. It was like a new freedom for them. There was a big celebration. Finally, they had power, control, and a sense of rights in the city of Gary. However, crime was steadily increasing, even more since Hatcher took office. And many felt Gary was too dangerous for people accustomed to living in peace. Certain neighborhoods even petitioned to secede from the city. But Hatcher knew that losing the white population would ultimately mean losing money in the city. So he met with people in their homes to convince them that he was a good guy, a solid mayor, and a man who would run the town as those before him. But at the same time, the blacks were prospering more than ever before. They shifted to living in the better neighborhoods, getting better jobs with the city, and becoming more aware of their rights as American citizens. National awareness of Gary had been achieved, and all of a sudden, the once great steel capital of America became known as a center of black power, like a black Washington, D.C.
Did you hear that music? The music that was in your documentary. Did
Just
you?
now?
Yeah, that was from Pippin.
Little boy singing Morning Glow?
Or wait a second. No, or was that Aquarius?
No,
Hair.
no, that was...
Morning Glow.
yeah,
That's hair. Well, I did that show too.
Did you?
Yes, I thought
Wow.
at first when we were sitting here talking about it, I thought it was Pippin, but Aquarius. That's the age of love, peace, and happiness, and
That's what it was from.
yeah, that's amazing. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Wow, I just got taken off track here.
It's okay.
Shantae. Oh, excuse. You know, sometimes angels get mixed up with the name calling. You know, spirit is spirit.
It's okay.
Is it okay?
It's okay,
Do you
Condra.
forgive me?
Yes.
What did you call me?
Condra? Aren't you? Condra Ridley?
No, I'm not Kendra Ridley.
What show is this?
I'd like to be. What show is this? You are now watching another episode
A
of
roving reader.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Calling All Angels Hotline
Of
here
course.
tonight.
Yes. Of course.
Monte.
This is Angels Talk Night. Sorry.
Well, wait a minute. Now we're really confusing our audience. Angels Talk is the weekly show.
That's right.
That's the show that's all across the nation.
Yeah.
Calling All Angels is right here in the heart and soul of the unifying city of churches. Hello?
That's right. This is Angels Talk. You're watching Angels Talk.
No, silly. It's Calling All Angels Hotline tonight. You're live. It's prime time.
Sorry. We both make mistakes tonight. There
Yeah, we
go.
do.
All right.
Yeah, we do.
Shantae, Monte, Dante, Montel.
Hey, I want to tell everyone, we're
Yes.
here talking tonight about the documentary that you made
Yes.
from Gary, Indiana. Everyone just saw the clip. Did you like it? If you liked it, call us. If you didn't, call us anyway. And we want to hear from you at 422-3902. I'd like to know something. You just went to the Cinema Texas 11 this past weekend.
This past weekend, yes.
With this information, with this documentary, with this most valuable piece of artistic value. What
That's right.
happened there?
Well, Cinema Texas is an international short film festival that's held every year in Austin, Texas. And they saw a short clip of Ghost Town on the internet, and the programmers there contacted me and asked if I would be interested in submitting to their competition. And I was really happy about that because I hadn't shown it anywhere outside of this general area. So I sent it to them, they accepted it, and the festival competition was just this past weekend. And I went down,
Yeah?
and I sat in on both screenings. I watched about 50 different films. They showed 150 total. And guess what?
They're all good.
Oh, they're great. There are lots of really great ones.
Yeah.
Totally. But Ghost Town took the top prize.
You're kidding!
No, I'm not kidding at all.
Oh my gosh. Oh, if I could get up and dance, I would. Really?
Ghost Town took the top prize. I won 2 awards there this past weekend.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Did you have to speak?
They passed me the microphone, but I was
Yeah?
so shocked that I didn't know what to say, so I just, kind of goofed it up. But, I still walked away with the award. So.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
And you're here tonight to tell everybody on live Calling All Angels.
That's right.
Oh, my heart's just pitter-pattering.
Thank you.
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, it was really good because the film itself was kind of met with mixed reviews when I showed it in Gary and even here in Fort Wayne. And so I was kind of feeling like I didn't really do the film justice, and that, maybe I should just try something else. But showing it to a different audience, you just have to keep trying. I made little minor adjustments to it, trying to keep it, on one level historically accurate, but on the other level keeping it entertaining. And I think I got it to where, I'm ready to just move on and let it be what it is.
I think it is what it is anyway. And I know I want to get this clip in, this next clip, before the show ends. So if we don't have any phone calls out there and the producers, the directors are ready, I'd like to show that because it revolves around the sports. And, you've touched on so many major elements. And then, of course, there's something of a little surprise that I want to talk about after this. So let's shift. Let's go and watch that. Sit back, stop, look, and listen to this next clip.
Church, too. In theory, the church was meant to be a city church, but ministered to Gary's social and economic elite, meaning white, while trying to outreach and control the greater city, meaning black. Ultimately, it failed because it refused to admit blacks when the black population was growing around it. And in 1975, it held its final service and closed its doors forever. Quite a few famous athletes, scientists, and entertainers hailed from Gary in its short history. Chuck Atkins was a collegiate champion boxer at San Jose State, and in 1952 became the first American to win a gold medal in boxing's light welterweight division. Lee Calhoun, a track star at Gary's Roosevelt High School, came home a hero after he won Olympic gold. He did it twice. Gary's Alex Karras had a football career at Iowa that led to a place in the College Football Hall of Fame, a successful pro career with the Detroit Lions, and an acting career after that. Gary native Hank Stram coached the Kansas City Chiefs in the first Super Bowl in 1967. His team returned in 1970 to win pro football's top prize. Charles O. Finley was a controversial and innovative baseball owner who moved the Kansas City Athletics to Oakland, where they won 3 straight World Series crowns. But none reached the heights of Frank Borman. In the early days of America's space program, Borman was a pioneer astronaut. On board Gemini 7, he spent 7 days in space. In 1968, he was on the first flight to circle the moon. And then there was Michael Jackson.
Wow. Perfect fade in. That's exactly what I was just going to say. It's like the script is built from the inside out of me tonight, Monte. I was looking at the screen and I was saying, Michael Jackson, he's watching over all those people. Is that mystical or what?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I was seeing. That was my perception. So.
Explain, what do you mean, Michael Jackson watching over?
Well, I wanted to share all of the famous sports people, the scientists and the entertainers and so forth, on a clip for our audience. But then I was seeing on that clip there was that silhouette of Michael Jackson, and naturally he comes into a very big part of this documentary that you made. Yeah.
Okay.
Why do you, I don't want to use the word, what led you to do that? What led you to that?
What led me to use Michael Jackson?
Not use him. I mean, include him like that in there. Was it because of the ghost theme that you had through it? You know, you wanted to...
I wanted to basically tie both the present with the historical documentary. I wanted to include Michael there so that the audience would feel that they're not watching this alone, and that it would be apparent that all of the information that they're learning, that character is also learning at the same time. And so that's why I included it. And I also, I guess primarily, I don't want the audience to feel alone during that part. And also it adds a little bit of mystery as to who it is and why they're there and what's going to happen next.
Well, you know, I'm going to get a little deep here on you, if that's okay. So often, and I'm going to say we, myself included, we have the tendency to feel, to be alone, to have that awareness of being alone. We could be in the most beautiful city. We could be in the coal regions, which is where I was raised. We could be anywhere and have that aloneness feeling. You know, we could actually live in a ghost town and be feeling, you know, alone. So that was a very important nugget that you wanted to try and express there. I think a great healing too for not only that particular city, but for other cities to duplicate, to look at that soul part of it.
I'm glad you caught it that way. That's a really interesting interpretation. I think that lends itself really well to the project.
Well, yes, and I am Sandra from Angels at God Central Station, Monte. Yeah. What do you think about that? Angels and God Central Station, connected with all this ghost town and all of this society and just all of it. What do you think about that?
I think that, I mean, if you're asking my own personal beliefs, I do believe that we're all angels for each other at different times in our lives, maybe multiple times. And that's ultimately what we're here for, is to be that messenger for each other and to kind of carry out the what's most holy about being human.
Yeah, I just thought that was so heavenly to see the churches on those clips that you just showed, and to hear that angelic realm in there. I mean, that is something that is heart and soul. That's there. That stays. That'll never leave any city, any place, whether it's a unifying city or Gary, Indiana. I just thought that was just, it's something that sometimes people separate, you know, and it's not. It's always there. There's no separation. It's always there, as far as I see it. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, good grief.
Good grief. Good grief. Well, so what's next with your project with this? Where are you going to go with it? When you said you want it to be what it's going to be, where do you think it's going to go now?
Well, I'd like to distribute copies of it to people who really want to see it. I would like to screen it more times here in the area and different film festivals. And I'd like to just, you know, as far as distributing it, making it available to the public and just letting it be and moving on to the next project that whatever that will be. I don't know yet.
Let's talk a little bit about Michael Jackson. I love Michael Jackson. I always did. I always will. He's my age, you know.
Is he?
Yeah, he did. I used to have dreams about him.
Wow.
I used to have dreams I'd marry him.
Wow. Imagine if you two were together today.
You know what? I have imagined that. I have imagined talking with him. I really have.
Have you?
Yeah, I have. And I look forward to it.
Well, I do too, actually.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what, if you don't mind, I'll send him a copy of your show. What do you think about that?
I'm sure he's going to have a lot of questions.
Yeah?
But yeah, you're more than welcome to.
Well, I know there is more clips that I don't know that I had ready from the director's chair, but there's a clip at the end where there's a lot of him. You show a lot of him, and you show him at one point he's sitting in a lotus position, very prayerful. He's in a very sanctified place and very holy. And I just thought that was moving. I mean, it was so moving. And I'm going to ask my cameraman if he can communicate with the directors to see if there's just a clip of him yet that we could show, maybe a minute or two of Michael and your work with what you did, because I have a question. Can we do that right here, right now? All right, we can do it. Stand by.
Michael Jackson, Gary's most famous native son. His rise to fame is legendary. He grew up in his home at 2300 Jackson Street. But many have criticized the superstar entertainer for turning his back on his struggling hometown. And yet it's not surprising. Like everything that used to be good about Gary, it's changed, it's left, it's disintegrated. It's no longer there.
One day in your life, you'll remember a place, someone touching your face. You'll come back and you'll look around you. One day in your life, you'll remember the love you found here. You remember me somehow, though you don't need me now. I will stay in your heart. And when things fall apart, you remember one day in your life, when you find that you're always waiting for the love we used to share. Just call my name, and remember me somehow.
That is so incredible. How did you do that? Would you share? How did you insert him in there?
It was very simple. I'm not a special effects whiz, but I do believe that if you just simply do something very simply, you can still get your point across. So I just made a photocopy and glued it to a cardboard and cut it out and wore it as a mask.
But wait a minute. There's a body hooked onto the mask.
Right.
Whose body is it?
That would be mine.
Thank you so much for sharing. I was sitting there and I'm watching this, and there's more to it. So if you watch after the show, you'll see the whole, 28 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
28 minutes. I was sitting there and I was viewing the videotape, and I'm thinking, now whose body does that look like? I mean, it really looks like Michael Jackson. But then I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Michael Jackson doesn't know this is, you did this. So you would have had to, and I was just trying to figure out how you did it. I thought that'd be a perfect question here tonight.
Right.
Thanks for giving up yourself.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Luckily, I had the body to pull it off.
It was perfect.
For now.
I feel like I'm sitting here next to Michael Jackson
No.
with the body. I'm surprised you didn't bring your mask tonight.
Can't sing.
You can't sing?
I can dance, but I can't sing.
Yeah?
No.
Well, he sings a song. I know you showed it in here, or you played it in here. It's about calling out your name.
Yeah.
Call out my name.
Yeah, that song is called One Day in Your Life, and it was one of the first songs he did after his voice changed when he was... It's a very obscure song. Most people in America don't know it.
Hey, well, guess what?
What?
We have a Halo telephone call.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Monte,
Yes.
how long did it take you to do this? I mean, how long did it take you to shoot it, and then how long did it take you to edit it?
I started on this project in February of 2005, and I finished it today.
Today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just been a work in progress constantly for the past year and a half. I've shown it publicly in unfinished states. I've even won awards with it being in an unfinished state. But it's done officially. This is the coronation right now.
Divine order.
Yes.
It's done. Yeah.
That's right.
Well, good for you, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What's your name?
It's Christine, Monte.
Oh, hi, Christine.
Hello.
Wow.
Talk to you later.
Oh, we have another caller?
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for calling. A lot of Christines out there, huh?
I guess so.
Yeah.
It's a divine name.
Yeah. Huh. So, it is a divine name.
Angelic, even.
Angelic even, too. So, I'm just going to take us back to the Cinema Texas here, where you won this award. I have to show this. International Short Film Festival. This is the book that they gave you?
Yeah,
there,
it's
or
just
what?
a souvenir book with all the information about every film that was shown there. And there's a write-up about Ghost Town in there somewhere. And
Somewhere?
yeah, I can show you, actually.
Where is it?
Let's see.
And I'll quickly read it, because you certainly deserve it. That's a lot of work.
Thank you.
I bet it was fun doing it, wasn't it?
Yeah, for the most part. Walking outside in the cold, take after take, that wasn't fun. And we even shot at one point in the summertime, and it was really hot. So, but editing was fun, and coming up with ideas was fun too. We have another call, don't we?
No, we don't. Not yet.
Oh.
We have 5 minutes left, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And I wanna-
cue cards, confusion.
I want to read here. It says, Ghost Town, what happened to Gary, Indiana? It seems to be alive, or maybe just undead. Huh. Patterson holds Michael Jackson hostage in their shared ghost hometown in this experimental documentary as a biographical performance, potentially forever. What do you have to say about that?
I don't think I could have said it better myself. I sent the film in to the festival programmers, and they watched it, and they got it. And I was really happy about that, because a lot of people I've shown it to didn't really get it, didn't really get what the idea behind the film was. And it is sort of holding him hostage, holding Michael Jackson hostage to the city, if you look at it that way. But there's a number of different ways you can interpret it. But I do like the way that they wrote that there, because it encapsulates the whole film, and I think that it expresses it in a way that people will see it as comprehensive.
I see it as very reflective from the moment it started, from the very beginning, with the historical background that I'm not a native of Fort Wayne, Indiana. I come from the coal regions and the train stations, you know. So there's a lot of things in there that is quite reflective. And, you know, now that I stand back and I look at it, just like you had Michael in that silhouette, you know, it's truly alive. It's truly alive. And I just think it's a wonderful, wonderful gift that you have brought to mankind, to share it. Yeah, to see how that comes
Thank you,
together.
Sandra. That was very nice. Thank you.
You're welcome, Monte. You're welcome. And if Angels at God Central Station can best support you anyway, what would that be?
Just wish me well.
Okay, I'll wish you well. And if you will, help me. It's time to end the show.
Okay.
Divine love and holy kisses.
Okay.
give yourself permission. Continue to be who you are.
I will. I give myself permission.
We're going to end the show.
All right.
Thank you all again for taking your time to stop, look, and listen in our divine appointment here tonight. I'm Sandra here with the one, the only one, Monte Patterson, the sole writer, director, producer of Ghost Town. And we're both here to say divine
Divine love
and
holy kisses.